Hey Aaron, how are you today?
Doing great. How about you?
Doing well. How things are going at Newton Baby?
Everything's going really well. We're nearing our 10-year anniversary as a company, so
Wow,
that's kind of exciting. Yeah.
nice. So you're the CMO of Newton Baby. Maybe you share a few more words about yourself, your professional background, and what you do at Newton Baby.
Yeah. So my background is a little disparate. I started primarily in finance and investment banking. That was kind of the first half of my career. And then the second half, I kind of bounced around between startups and then ended up really on the marketing and e-commerce side about almost 9 years ago. First for Teleflora, running their international e-commerce, and then more recently, well, recently, but for the past 5 years at Newton Baby.
Yeah, and I know you have an analytics background. You're mostly on the data side, right? Quantitative type of mindset. What drives you you know, to focus on the marketing side of things?
Yeah, I mean, coming from finance, I always had more of a quantitative background, and one of the things that really appealed to me about e-commerce is that things are measurable. And nowadays, everything's measurable. Maybe not as well as we would like to be able to measure everything,
Mhm.
but there's something that's measurable about every different kind of ad you could ever run. And so, really being able to test, measure, learn, reincorporate findings is really appealing to me as someone who is more quantitative. And then, if even testing creative and having the ability to be super creative, but then getting really great feedback on that creative and incorporate those learnings, which are often quantitative, back into the process, really kind of just pulls together a bunch of my disparate skill sets that I
Yeah,
put together throughout a long and very windy career.
yeah. It seems that the marketing role is changing like always, right? But definitely these days through the data analytics and the use of AI tools. And so definitely the ability to analyze, to measure attribution and try to understand what's customer sentiment and how things are operating is like critical, is like critical foundation for success of any CMO out there, right?
Yeah, and one of the things that I love about marketing and e-commerce is that I used to always get really bored really quickly with whatever job. My longest job before this one was 2.5 years, I think. But the nice thing about e-commerce is that every couple of months, Meta or someone else totally blows up their algorithm and everything changes, and you can't use the same playbook for more than I don't know. It feels like 2-3 months at a time before something goes off the rails or a new opportunity arises or you tap into a new vein. So it's kind of a lot more perpetually exciting than other things I've done career wise.
Yeah. How do you adapt to this ongoing change? Seems like the only constant thing is like is ongoing change, right? It requires a specific mentality, probably teamwork, company culture, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm fortunate in that I have a CEO who tends to think through things very similarly to the way that I do, which is let's experiment with everything, and if it doesn't work, fine, fail fast and move on.
Hmm.
But without constant testing and experimentation, you're probably not going to grow nearly as fast as you could. We were self funded and bootstrapped the whole way through, so I never had crazy giant VC budgets to throw at the wall and see if something stuck. So we had to
Yeah,
be very deliberate and careful. And the upside of that is that we were really careful. We measured everything we could. We tested. We moved on if it didn't work.
yeah. So what are the special, let's say, processes or decision-making process you have inside the company being a bootstrap, versus a VC backed, as you mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, I think because I mean, when we were smaller, now we're at scale, but when we were smaller, we had such limited funds that prioritizing what to test was a big exercise.
Hmm.
And then making sure that our tests were designed well enough to get learnings and that they were designed to have sample sizes large enough to see statistical significance was always kind of the first stop in any test. Like we wouldn't test something that we didn't think we could spend enough to hit significance. So anything with a giant budget like a huge branded TV commercial was never in our domain until recently. Now we're actually working on one,
Hmm.
but it caused us to be very careful and deliberate back then, especially.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us more about the company. What are the product lines and how do you promote all these products out there?
Yeah, it's a cool origin story. So Michael Rothbard, the founder and CEO, has been in the bedding business his whole career. He started and sold a different bedding company that made mattress toppers 20 years ago now. And then he had kids, and he had twins, and they weren't sleeping well. And he was trying to figure out what was going on, and he decided to go investigate what they were sleeping on. I think, like most parents 10 years ago, no one really paid all that much attention to, especially crib mattresses. And what he found was that all crib mattresses back then were basically sealed in plastic. They were hard as a rock, so that a baby couldn't push their face in and suffocate. And they
Hmm.
were sealed in plastic because, almost all mattresses are sealed in plastic because you can't wash them.
For obvious
And
reasons. Yeah.
yeah, and around the same time, at a trade show, he had discovered this material, which we now call woven air and is now our brand of material. But it looks like ramen noodles before you put them in water. So it's basically almost like fishing line that's been hardened and woven in a 3D structure. And he realized that it would be perfect for crib mattresses because not only can you wash the inside of the mattress, but it's also, and most importantly, breathable, which certainly gives parents peace of mind. The baby basically can't suffocate. But perhaps even more importantly, it's much better for temperature and thermoregulation. Babies can't thermoregulate at all. They always wake up with sweaty backs on traditional mattresses. So we've actually done some tests and some studies where babies actually sleep longer and deeper on our mattresses, and the theory is it's because they are cooler and more breathable.
Nice.
So Newton was founded. He decided to launch a whole company around technology and around the product. So the first product was the crib mattress 10 years ago, and over the past years we launched ancillary products, so sheets, mattress pads, things like that. And then over the past 2 years, we really kind of went on an innovation tear and launched a whole suite of ancillary products, bigger products like bassinets, pack and plays, even pet beds. It turns out dogs also like to sleep cooler. So, and you can wash the inside again, which is a big deal with the pet. You don't have to throw out the cheap Costco one every year because you can actually wash it. And then kids mattresses too. So now when the baby grows out of the crib mattress, they have something equally comfortable and breathable to sleep on.
Yes. Interesting. I saw some of your Instagram reels, and then I realized that I see like mothers they're just breathing inside the mattress, right?
Yeah, the first thing everyone does is we call it the breathe to believe challenge, and they
You
smush
breathe to
their faces
believe.
in.
Okay.
And you can breathe through straight through the mattress, which is really reassuring for parents. I mean,
Wow. Nice.
right around the time I was joining Newton, I had a baby too, and it's terrifying thinking that they may stop breathing or suffocate at any given moment in time. It's kind of a
Yeah.
miracle that they breathe at all. So it really reduces anxiety for first time parents around this whole breathing suffocation topic.
Yes. So in terms of the company storytelling philosophy, I mean, there's a lot of discussion these days about founder-led content, right? And the story that you mentioned, how it started. And then you have all these feature set around, how the mattress works and the breathing capabilities. And there's a lot of all great things. How do you balance between, providing like the features set, like what's cool about it, how is it differentiated, and eventually people are not buying just because of features. There are emotions involved and habits and motivations. What's your philosophy in terms of all these messaging strategies?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, but I think the answer is, and it's tricky, especially because our product is so different than every other product on the market. So it really required a lot of customer education and heavy lift in the early days.
Hmm.
Not only is our mattress totally different than anything, it was back then way more expensive than everything. So it was 3 times more expensive than the average mattress, and we really had to educate. And we frankly, I think in the early days struggled to do that because most online ad forms, especially before video became so prevalent, it was like a static ad. How do you tell all of these features and why it's important to spend 4 times more than you normally would on a mattress in a static banner ad or
Yes.
or static Facebook ad even? And the answer is you can't. So early on, I think one of our big wins was really leaning into influencer and specifically influencer video, where the influencers would really take some time and go through the features and explain why it meant a lot to them and how our mattress did reduce anxiety and give them peace of mind and exactly why. And we had in the early days we had like a talking points guide doc for the creators, and
Okay.
it was long, and there was pushback, and but in essence, that's how we told the story and why it was important and what the features were that actually mattered. And an influencer continues to be our biggest channel spend wise today.
Interesting. So how do you manage this influencer marketing activities? How do you qualify? And it's
Oh God, it's very
yeah.
very hands on. I wish there was a great way to automate it, but we run influencer. I mean, kind of four different ways. Our program's so big, so we run micros mostly in house, although we do some processing of them through an agency. We
Mhm.
run macros through that same big agency, and we run it very differently than most. We run it like a performance channel where everything is measured and tested, and we only rebook based on actual performance. Um, we run it through affiliate also. So any influencers that we've worked with or that want to work with us that are willing to work on affiliate rev share, we're certainly happy to. Very few of the good ones are, but those who are, we'll do that way all day long. And then every once in a while, we'll use one of the other kind of influencer platforms to do big batches of micros. So like mini
Mhm.
socials or stack influences of the world.
So you have an inside team that is managing all these activities, obviously, and
Yeah, the inside team manages some of the micros and then all of the agencies.
yeah. And so it's a big product. So how does it work? You just send them over to the local shop to purchase, or you ship it over there and then
We ship to them. Yeah,
you ship to
we
them.
don't we do almost no brick and mortar
Yeah. Okay.
at all. It's almost all D2C and Amazon at this point.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's nowhere to go see it in person.
Okay. So obviously you've tried a lot of things, right? Probably advertising on all the platforms, right?
All of them.
All of them. Yeah. Are
At
you
any
still
given point
doing?
in time, we're literally running 30 channels, about half of which are permanent and half of
Wow.
which are being tested. Yeah,
Wow. 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 Are you still doing that, or you zeroing
yeah,
in on the
we
most
still do it.
successful?
There's always something new and interesting. I go to the conferences a lot and hear about something new or a new way to run something, a different agency. I don't know. So we're always testing all kinds of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any specific platform that is more attractive, or is it just making sure you have the right content on all these platforms and just feeding the pipes always?
Yeah. So, historically it was a bit hard to answer the question for the business overall. We could always tell exactly what was happening on Shopify, but we didn't have great transparency on halo effects of ad channels to Amazon. And Amazon's always been a big chunk of our business, about a third of it.
Okay.
So recently we hired House.io for incrementality testing, and the beauty of it is it shows the cross-platform halo effects of whatever we're testing. And what we found is super interesting, and contrary to perhaps what we and a lot of other brands thought, we found that Facebook, for example, is actually more incremental to our Amazon sales than to our Shopify, even though all the links go straight to our Shopify. So it's been really interesting. But in
Yeah.
terms of your specific question, the most incremental channel right now per dollar spent is actually PMax non-brand. So we run PMax both brand and non-brand, set
Right.
budgets very differently due to incrementality. And our PMax non-brand is the most incremental across all channels.
Wow. Interesting. And that attribution tool, how is it integrated to your ecosystem? How do you measure? How do you get the data?
So it's all, well, not all, but the primary way we run tests through House are GeoLift tests. So they're effectively a data science team. They go into our Shopify and Amazon order data. They see the geos that are comparable. They design tests to ensure we hit statistical significance. Generally run them for about 2 weeks and then see what happens.
Mm-hmm. So it gives you more data and knowledge about attribution, right? Which is becoming more and more challenging. Obviously, you're not an omni-channel, but it's probably less of an issue. But also, working with 30 channels, there is also definitely a challenge around that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we basically serve well north of 20 impressions. I mean, we discovered this only a couple months ago, but we're over serving impressions. Our demographic is a very specific set for the most part. Pregnant women, there's only 2.5 million of them in the country at a time.
Mm-hmm.
We're serving 30 to 40 million impressions a month, so probably over serving. And so we've been using House to really hone our marketing and make sure that everything we're doing is as incremental as possible.
Nice. So you just mentioned that Facebook is driving traffic to your Amazon. pages, right? That's
Yeah,
that.
I mean, almost all of our channels see some halo effect on Amazon. Some, like Facebook, are more incremental to Amazon. Some, like Pinterest, are much more incremental to our site, and
Mhm.
it really just varies.
What about the impact of organic content to the paid media side of things? Do you see any impact? I mean, if you're generating traffic to your Amazon, obviously CPCs should improve, right? Theoretically, and what is the relationship between your earned and owned media?
It's a good question, and part of the problem is that organic's super hard to measure. I mean,
Oh,
obviously, we see direct clicks on anything that we have a link in, but it's really hard to measure. We've always kind of looked at organic as table stakes, organic social especially. So we post to all the platforms pretty regularly. Um, and I think we see really good engagement. One of the biggest things we did for driving organic traffic and engagement and really community, we launched a Facebook group um, 2 or 3 maybe 3 years ago now,
hmm,
really with the hope of being a place where pregnant women and new moms can go and have real conversations, get expert advice, etc. And it's been an awesome source of just customer
nice.
loyalty, organic traffic, everything. We're up to I think we're nearing 100,000 people at this point
Wow,
in the group, and it's awesome. It's a great resource. It's much more effective than doing a post to Instagram once a week. And so that's been one of my favorite organic things to do.
amazing.
And then we have a pretty robust organic SEO long tail strategy through the blog also.
Yes, and the type of content that you produce there is just more value, knowledge, new.
Yeah, for the Facebook group, it really is. It's all of that. We do Facebook Lives with experts, so whether it's doctors, pediatricians, sleep coaches, pregnancy nutritionists, all different kinds, whatever we actually kind of get interest in typically.
Mhm. What about email?
So email and SMS have always been a focus for us. SMS, we were kind of we were early on, and so we have a very big SMS list. And so we have full built out flows because of we're not a typical like clothing company where there's high repeat rate and it's the same customer. Our end customer is changing every month. The baby's growing and aging out of the crib mattress into a kid's mattress, etc.
Yeah.
So our post purchase series is like 3 years long, right? And there's, I don't know, 40 emails in there because we have to go through the whole kid's life cycle, and we want
Wow.
to make sure we're
Yeah.
giving relevant content to the mom for each development stage of the child. So our flows are insanely complex and robust and built out.
Wow.
But yeah, we've always been big on SMS too. We've recently, for a while, SMS just on a last click basis was outperforming email. It's actually starting to flip now, and I think it's because everyone's getting so spammy with respect to SMS. But we're starting to see email drive more last click revenue than SMS lately.
Mhm. Nice. It seems that you need to, let's say, catch the pregnant woman just in the right timing when she needs to make some kind of decision to purchase something for the kids' room, right? So mattresses and all. How do you do that? I mean, how do you, identify the opportunity? How do you target in the right time? That's kind of an art that I would love to learn more from you.
It's a really interesting, tricky one, and
Yeah.
so we've experimented with it all different ways. We've done partnerships with other, pregnancy type apps. We've done partnerships with baby registry sites, ads on those platforms, etc.
Hmm.
And we've also looked at buying the data from the data brokers because they know exactly who's pregnant when, which is, obviously slightly creepy and horrifying.
Yeah.
Um, the only thing that we've used it for is like creating lookalike audiences in Facebook. We haven't done anything more invasive than that, and we're very careful with respect to our potential customers' privacy. But what we found is that the in-platform algorithms almost always outperform any of the other kind of more sophisticated data sources, because by the time that you pay for those data sources, it ends up basically killing your performance of the platforms themselves.
Yeah.
So almost all of them are better than any other kind of outside data source for identification purposes and targeting.
What is a typical purchasing behavior? I mean, those women, they go probably to offline brick and mortar store to try to buy so many things, and you are
Yeah,
online.
so
How do you
it,
intersect that process, right?
yeah, it's been interesting, and it's changed so much just during the time that I've been with Newton. When they launched the company, they thought, oh, it's a mattress. This was before Casper and everyone too. You
Hmm.
have to be brick and mortar so that people can touch and feel it. So we launched with Bye Bye Baby, which was then by far one of the biggest baby stores. And there were others. Babies R Us was still around, so there were baby stores where you could go touch and feel product. Now there's none. There's literally zero, except for some baby boutiques, in the big cities. So the path has changed quite a bit for the consumer, and we've basically had to replicate online what might have used to start with a brick and mortar visit. It's like, oh, I need to
Hmm.
build my registry. Let me go to Bye Bye Baby, walk around the floor with a customer service person, and we'll add everything to the registry. And now it's all online. So what we find is that the first thing that a pregnant woman does is think about what the nursery is going to look like. And where do you do that? Where do you start designing a nursery? It's Pinterest.
Uh-huh.
So that tends to be our topmost funnel touch point. It's been tricky. They've evolved a lot as a platform. Measurement is really tough. But I think we've kind of nailed it at this point.
Got
So
it.
Pinterest and then influencer is also one of the longer paths to purchase. So the funnel, and it's the way it works usually with the influencers is that oftentimes it's someone that the new mom or potential mom has been following for a long time, and then
Mhm.
as she gets the creator gets pregnant, she'll talk about our product and be like, oh, that's interesting, I never knew anything about crib mattresses. And so that's super early on in the process too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then from there, it's a whole host of other potential touch points, adding to registry. Typically it won't get purchased off the registry because it's a very high ticket item, and then she'll buy it herself, the registry completion discount. Maybe she'll come to our site and buy it when we're 20% off or
Mhm.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
Long funnel.
Yeah. Long funnel and a very interesting one. So you mentioned like a third of the business is on Amazon and the rest is like on your own.com. What is the opportunities that you see? I mean, how do you analyze social commerce, for example, TikTok? I know you're experimenting with all of these.
Yeah, I love social commerce. We've been on Facebook Shop since the very beginning.
Mhm.
But the truth is, because it's so high price, no one checks out. I mean, we get some. We sell pregnancy pillows, for example. That right now we're closing out the old ones. They're $40. So we
Mhm.
do have a new and improved. So we do see those sell on Facebook Shops. We're literally launching on TikTok Shops today. So we'll see with the pregnancy
Wow.
pillow, especially. I just don't think people are going to be buying $300 crib mattresses on TikTok Shops, but I'd love to be proven wrong. Well, maybe you never know.
Yeah, it's a high ticket item, right? I guess so. It's
It
tough.
is, but yeah, we've tried live shopping and on Facebook Lives and things like that, and we haven't seen much traction on any of that kind of thing.
Got it. Got it. I'm very interested in the staffing aspect of your job, right? I mean,
Mhm.
marketing has so many functions and so many job descriptions, so many tasks. How do you make decision, hire versus outsource? And I mean, how do you build your team around that?
Yeah, I mean, in the early days, we outsourced everything because we were so lean. When I started, it was the marketing department was two and a half people, right? Now we're 12 people, and so now we can
Wow.
approach this a lot more methodically. Um, but I've always been a fan of using agencies. I think hiring and negotiating agency comp is something that I've spent a lot of time honing. Um, I always do a ton of reference checks, and then I always make sure uh, to structure compensation so our incentives are perfectly aligned. I would never do percent of spend. It doesn't make any sense to me that that
Hmm.
ever happened.
Okay.
But the thing I love about agencies is that if structured correctly, and if you're working with the right agency, you're benefiting from wisdom gained across all kinds of customers. And there's just so much more institutional knowledge than you can ever have on your insular in-house team. So some channels I love, especially Meta, for example, I love running through an agency that has other clients where they're running 4 times more tests than you can just run yourself, and we're
Hmm.
benefiting from that knowledge. And the same with our influencer agency. They're, like I said, they're really focused on performance, and they only work with influencers who have been shown to perform for other clients. So we're not, spending $30,000 on a big macro influencer that may have a lot of followers, but sucks at driving sales.
Hmm.
So for those things, I really like working with agencies. But there are other cases where it's probably not as necessary. And so for Pinterest and Snapchat, for example, we run them in house. Um, it's really just kind of a balanced approach where I see not just the cost, but also what's the benefit of working with an agency versus what are the pitfalls.
And what are the consideration? Why you decided to do Pinterest in house, for example? Is it because you found someone who can do the job and you feel confident with her, or is this was a decision?
Yeah, so the truth of the matter is, we started so early on Pinterest that no one knew how to do it, and I mean, TikTok's a little bit the same way.
Yeah.
Their reps aren't always up to speed on everything, and it's still evolving so much, and it changes so frequently that there's almost no point in. There's not much to be learned from an agency because they're
Mhm.
learning at the same pace as you are. With the more established channels, it's a different
Yes.
story.
So if I understand you correctly, so more of the like the new innovative things or the new things you try to build in house because you need to learn it because anyhow the agency is learning it as well, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Interesting,
Yeah.
interesting. And you mentioned influencer marketing performance. What are the KPIs for you? Is like conversion? Is it impression? What are you looking at?
So it really is conversion, and we of course don't. There's a lot of volume and value they drive that isn't directly measurable, but we try to measure every different way we can. Orders. So each influencer has a unique code. They have unique links. We do the post purchase survey, not
Hmm.
just we ask, how did you hear about Newton? And if the person writes someone I follow, then we ask them to actually fill in the name, and everyone does because they want their person to get credit.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's of course a triangulation, but we take every data point we can and try to stitch together how much value we think they actually drove.
Hmm.
We certainly do look at engagement and impressions, but those are not the primary metrics for us at all.
Okay. So it's just conversion probably through a coupon code or you know, usually,
Coupon
right?
code, link click, post purchase
Link, link.
survey.
Yes. And you looking to develop some longer term engagement with some of the creators or some of
We
the
do.
influencers, obviously, right?
Yeah, so we have basically minimum hurdles, and if they pass those hurdles, then we rebook.
Got it. Got
And
it.
oftentimes we'll rebook for the next year, sometimes 2 years, if we find
Wow.
someone really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So, Aaron, you reach a place in your career that you like running the entire marketing team, right? And what do you think led you to this position in terms of expertise and knowledge? Is it like are you a self learner? You had like a good mentor throughout the years. What's the story behind it?
That's a good question. I don't know that I have a good clear cut answer. I think one of the things that certainly helped is that I started on the business side. And so every time, I want to do something, I always make a business case for it and make sure that whoever I'm asking for budget or whatever else really understands the financial ramifications.
Hmm.
And so I think that's certainly allowed me, or at least shown to senior management that I know what I'm doing, that I understand the ramifications of it, that I've modeled it out. It's well thought out. The risks are mitigated, et cetera. So that's probably um, a big driver in my success, I think.
Nice. And do you feel maybe not just for the company, but maybe for the market that there is a less tolerance for like taking risk, more innovation type of initiatives, more focus on operation, profitability? How do you see the market right now in that respect?
Yeah, I mean, certainly that's been the case, sort of across the entire tech ecosystem and consumer too. It's that there's no more easy money. People aren't raising $1 billion for consumer products anymore.
Yeah.
You have to be profitable. So so the year of efficiency or whatever they're calling it, seems to be pervasive. But it's always, like I said, it's always been for us. We were self funded, so we could never really do the crazy stupid things. Now it seems like everyone's finally joining us,
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
great because I don't have to compete with people spending millions of dollars on ridiculous TV ads.
Exactly. Exactly. And I know exactly what you mean. Vimy, my company, we're already celebrated 10 years, right? A few months ago. And we also bootstrapped close to 100 employees.
Wow.
And we always think, is it worth it, right? Okay, let's try. And let's see, spending the dollar before you're receiving any dollar, right? That's always a risky, and you need to be very, very careful, in those decisions. Great, Aaron. Anything else you want to add?
I don't know. I think that's about it.
Amazing. So really appreciate the time. It was really, really interesting. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Bye bye.
Bye.